Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here for a tag video today. I've just watched a tag created by Sean the Bookmaniac and Britta Bowler, an original tag called the Vlogmas Tag. So this is a tag that is for people doing Vlogmas, but also for anyone. So I'm attempting to do Vlogmas, although I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm not labeling all my videos Vlogmas Day 1, Vlogmas Day 2. I'm just planning to put out a higher volume of videos than usual, and we'll see whether I make it or not. But this tag here looks like a fun thing to post for the second day of Vlogmas, the second day of December. So there are 7 prompts here, spelling out the word Vlogmas, so V-L-O-G-M-A-S. Each prompt begins with a letter. So prompt number 1 is V is for Voyage, a book that involves a voyage. So I started out thinking about this prompt, taking it literally, like someone who travels in a book about travel. And then it occurred to me, what is a great Christmas book that involves a voyage? And I thought of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. This one definitely involves a voyage through time, a voyage with ghosts. And I have this beautiful edition that I ordered online from Abe Books a couple years back. Got this flaming Christmas pudding on the cover here. Candlestick and holly on the spine. And nice thick paper. Some small illustrations on the inside. I don't even know the publication date of this book. I can tell that it is fairly old. W&R Chambers Limited, London and Edinburgh. So regardless of when it was made, it's a beautiful book. When I ordered it, I think they suggested that it was made sometime around the turn of the 20th century, so around 1900. Here's God Bless Us Everyone, said Tiny Tim. So it's a beautiful edition, and this is a book that I like to read every December. It's become my tradition for, I think, going on 5 years now to read A Christmas Carol on Christmas Eve. And of course, it's a short little book, so I sit down usually on the afternoon or the evening of Christmas Eve and spend an hour or two just reading it and experiencing it. And actually, this is a fun prompt for a story time. So a couple years back, 2 years back now, I was spending Christmas in Ottawa. I went home for New Year's instead, and on Christmas Eve, NAC, which is the National Arts Centre here in Ottawa, was putting on a performance of A Christmas Carol. And so I went, and instead of reading the book on my own at home, I think I actually did read it as well that year anyway, but instead of reading it that afternoon at home, I went to NAC and I saw it put on as a play, as a production. And it was a really neat production as well, because one of the actors was deaf, and so part of the production was actually in sign language. The sets were really interesting too, because one of the actors was blind, and so they were describing the sets, and instead of having, full-on big sets, they had these little, almost like dollhouse models that hung down on strings from the ceiling, and they asked you to imagine being in this set for each scene. And so there was a lot of, workarounds and back and forth, because obviously when one of your actors is deaf and another actor is blind, there is a bit of a communication issue, but it was quite an interesting and fun performance of A Christmas Carol, which is probably my favorite story to read around Christmas. So the next prompt 2, L is for LGBTQ+. Recommend a favorite book or author. So there are several I could recommend, but today I'm thinking about Rita Mae Brown. She is the author of Venus Envy, a very humorous novel that I like very much, but she's written several books that I think are quite good. She's written something with grapefruit in the title that I haven't read yet, that I probably should because that's her most famous. So I'm recommending her to you, but also reminding myself to dive back into her collection of books and actually read that most famous one. Ruby Fruit Jungle. Nothing to do with grapefruit. Ruby Fruit Jungle. That's the name of the book. So prompt 3, O is for Oldie but Goldie, a book you read a long time ago that holds a special place in your heart. So when I think of Christmas time and of books that hold a special place in my heart, I think of a book that I didn't actually read around Christmas for the first time, but Christmas makes me think of my childhood, and there's also the association that a couple years back I did reread this book around Christmas. And it's a children's book, Freddie Goes to Florida by Walter R. Brooks. So this was my favorite book for several years as a child. It's about a group of farm animals led by Charles the Rooster and Freddie the Pig. And they decide they're sick and tired of Northern American winters, and so they're going to take a vacation. They're going to take a holiday and go south to Florida for the winter. And they have all sorts of adventures along the way, run into some dangerous alligators in the swamps of Florida. And this is always a fun one to reread. It does really hold a special place in my heart. You have Mrs. Wiggins the cow, you have a couple of spiders, you have Emma the duck, and it's a fun book for children, but if you're an adult, I think you'd really get a kick out of it as well. It's very funny. So here we go. Prompt 4, G is for gift. Share some anecdotes about good and bad experiences with gift giving and / or receiving book gifts. So I've been known to give people books as gifts, but I don't do that anymore unless they've specifically asked for something, because I've discovered that just because I think someone will like something doesn't mean they will. And a lot of the people in my life aren't big readers. So giving them a book is, they're not going to read it. So it's not really a good gift for them. I do give some people books, so I hope my mom and sister are watching this, but my mom is getting some Amish romance novels for Christmas because she's really into those love-inspired bonnet rippers, so to speak, lately. She used to make fun of those and say that they were horrible and she couldn't stand them, but in the past year or so, she's really gotten into them. So that's part of her gift this year. And then my sister, of course, she's a big reader as well. She reads slightly different things than me, but she has been looking for some Alexander Dumas novels because she's gotten into those, and so I did get her one of those this year. So those are good book giving experiences. I once gave someone a book as a birthday present. That did not go well. I regret giving that book because I don't think he read it, and now I wish that I had that book on my own shelf because it was a really nice edition of that particular book. I think it was Robertson Davies' Almanac, which it would have been really great to have that hardcover, which I think may have been like a first or second printing, so sort of regret giving that away as a gift to someone who probably never bothered to read it. And then, of course, when I think of getting books, I think of all the years that my Grandma Z used to order books for me for Christmas and birthdays, and I would open it and she would say, "Oh yeah, that's a really good one." After it arrived, I read it. She would order me a book that I had requested and then she would read it. But she was such a careful reader, and she still is to this day. When she has read a book, you can't tell that it's been read, especially when she's planning to give it as a gift. I don't know, she doesn't open the book entirely, so the spine remains in perfect condition. The paperback looks like it's never been read. And then when I think of books from her as well, I always thought it was so funny. She would put a sticker, a cute little sticker, over the price on the back of the book, so that I wouldn't know how much she spent on it. And I didn't pull this book, but my copy of Villette by Charlotte Bronte actually has a sticker over the price on the back, because that was a Christmas gift from her one year. So moving along here. 5, M is for Mass-Market Paperback. Do you like them? Why or why not? Show us a couple. Talk about a couple you have read. So I don't mind Mass-Market Paperbacks. They're not my favorite thing in the world. If I'm going to be reading a paperback, I do prefer the Mass-Market Paperbacks, though. I'm more of a hardcover person. But when it comes to paperbacks, because paperbacks can be pretty floppy, I do prefer the Mass-Market because they are easier to hold on to than perhaps a bigger paperback. But as I said, not a big fan of them. It's really easy for the spines to crack and you get those unattractive white lines. But you know, if I'm reading a Stephen King novel, if I'm reading whatever book that's brand new that I picked up, I really don't mind that Mass-Market paperback. But as I said, I do prefer hardcovers just because they're more durable and they're more pleasant to hold. So A is for all in the family, whether you come from a family of readers or not. Tell us all about it. So I do come from a family of readers. Looking to my mom's side of the family, because that's really, I guess, where the quote reading gene comes from. My dad's side of the family doesn't read much. My dad does read a little bit, but he'll read maybe a book a year, and it'll be nonfiction, often something to do with motorcycles or something to do with theology or Christianity. But he's not a big reader. My older brother is not a big reader either. He did read as a kid. I remember him going through, I think it was the Magic Treehouse books and a bunch of the Hardy Boys books, but he's not much of a reader today. And my laptop is about to go to sleep, losing the questions. But yeah, my mom is a big reader. She's into Christian romances and I guess I would say books on the lighter side of things. She doesn't read a lot of heavy literature. She's not into nonfiction, but she does enjoy reading Christian romance. And so she reads a lot of that. She also enjoys a mystery novel now and then. My sister, she likes things like Dumas and Clive Cussler. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I think, is her favorite book. She read Vanity Fair by Thackeray a while back. But her reading tastes are a little bit different than mine. There's a lot of things that I read that she finds a bit boring or not her thing. She was getting into Graham Greene, interestingly enough. When I was back visiting family over Thanksgiving, she had this book by Graham Greene and she was trying to decide from a stack of library books what to read next. And I said, "Oh, the Graham Greene, I like Graham Greene. I've gotten into Graham Greene lately." And so she read the Graham Greene and wanted to read more of him. So our tastes do overlap a bit. And there have been, I left some books at my parents' place when I moved out, and she dips into that now and then for a book to read. As I was saying though, my mom's side of the family, my grandpa is a big reader. I actually remember, I think I may have gotten part of my bug for old dusty books from his basement book collection, because as I was a kid, as I was a teenager, I recall going down into their basement where my brother and I used to play when we would go to visit. And it was half that basement was just these big, long wooden shelves, and he had a lot of nonfiction down there. So he had a shelf of theology and books on Lutheranism and Christianity, but that was sort of set off to the side, and I didn't look at those. But he had books on gardening because he used to be a big gardener in his younger days. He had books on writing. He had classics. I think there was some Dickens there, some Americana. The editions of Shakespeare that I had used to be on that shelf, and he gave them to me. And so it was always just fun to dig through and just browse his shelves. He's the kind of person, if he goes somewhere and they're selling books, there's a pretty good chance that he's going to come home with a book of some sort. And as far as I've known him, he's not the kind of person who sits down and reads a book straight through. He dips in. So he'll have a stack of books on the go. He'll read a bit here and there. The books will be stacked on the coffee table, by his computer. He used to work for a tech company back in the day. And so I remember his desk in the corner of their living room was just all this computer stuff, and then just books stacked everywhere. And my grandmother reads as well. She's into contemporary Christian romances and historical Christian novels as well. When I was younger, early teens, I used to read some of that same genre, and so I'd go and there'd be a big stack of her books that she'd read, and my mom and I would, dig through and pick what we wanted to read and take them home with us. So definitely come from a family of readers. Final prompt here, S is for Santa. Books on your Christmas wish list. So I could have a massive Christmas wish list, all the books that I would hope to receive as gifts, but I didn't ask for any books for Christmas. I have long since given up asking for books for Christmas or birthdays because I know I'm not going to get them. If there's a specific new release, sometimes I'll give it to a friend who's asked what I would like for a birthday or Christmas. That's how I got the Slytherin edition of Philosopher's Stone a few years back. I specifically asked for that because I thought it was neat. But I've learned that spending the time to make up a list of books that I want is just a waste of time because people aren't going to go to the trouble of tracking them down. I recall one Christmas, my entire Christmas list was books, specific titles I wanted, and I got nothing from it. So that was a disappointing Christmas. And I think it's because I don't exactly choose easy to find titles, and so you've either got to go shopping on Amazon, which my family doesn't shop on Amazon a lot, or you've got to go and order it from someplace like A-Books, or hunt in a lot of used bookstores, which, it's difficult to find a very specific book if you're just going to physical bookstores. I would love, my dream wish list would include, a bunch of Trollope, a bunch of J.M. Barrie, some Louisa May Alcott, but I asked for, practical things that I'll actually get for Christmas. So my Christmas is going to be fairly void of books, which is unfortunate, but I'll live.